This episode is brought to you by Abercrombie. Build your fits of the day with Abercrombie's newest denim drop. Here's where to start. Abercrombie's 90s straight jean goes with any shirt from tees to sweater polos. Super versatile. Their loose and baggy jeans are more trend forward, so you can grab those and go out with your friends. Abercrombie's denim fits come in a range of washes. Build your looks around Abercrombie denim. Shop online or in-store.
This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and NIL Game Changers. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and Sunbury Motor Company. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
This half hour being brought to you by our good friends at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf. Online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Kia, Hyundai, best in new inventory. All with great warranties, I might add. Great pre-owned inventory with the Sunbury Motors guarantee. They go over each vehicle with a fine-tooth comb. And a terrific service department. Whether it happens to be quick lane, inspections, routine, difficult, they handle it all at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. All right. Todd Zolecki now joins us, and yes, what a great podcast it is. The Phillies Show with Ruben Amaro, Jim Salisbury, and Todd himself. Sir, welcome. Always a pleasure.
Hi, hey, how are you doing? I'm doing well.
I have to start with this. Under the category of, you have to be kidding me, Hal Steinbrenner is complaining how much the Dodgers are spending. When you saw that, again, consider the source. When you saw that, what did you think?
Well, I just immediately thought about, I wonder how George Steinbrenner would be running the Yankees these days because, for years and years and years, he was the guy outspending everybody and not giving a hoot how much he was spending. So definitely a different, Hal is definitely a lot different than his father in terms of the willingness to go all in to secure the top talent available.
It's interesting, isn't it? Now, Sasaki was the latest big one for the Dodgers, but they're going to be up about $500 million. How interested are you to see how Sasaki pitches in the majors? Because this isn't always a slam dunk when it happens.
No, I'm super interested to see how he does. I mean, all the reports from him from Japan is that this guy has immediate top-of-the-rotation stuff, throws in the high 90s, touches 100, has some great off-speed stuff. And so, I guess I want to see if the hype matches his performance. Yoshinobu Yamamoto last year was a similarly hyped Japanese pitcher that came over. He had some injury issues, pitched pretty well in the postseason, was kind of hot and coldish during the regular season, when he wasn't hurt. But by all accounts, Sasaki is maybe better than him. So
right.
Yeah, I'm really interested because they, Los Angeles right now has kind of cornered the market on these Japanese superstar players that want to come play Major League Baseball. Of course, Ohtani, then Yamamoto, then Sasaki. So, if these guys kind of deliver as everybody expects, man, the Dodgers have a really good pipeline right now of talent that just wants to keep coming and playing for Los Angeles.
All right, so Todd, with the Phillies going to spring training, what will be a couple of things that you're going to look for right away so that they can maybe close a gap? When I mean close a gap, I'm not talking about a chasm, a gap.
Between the Phillies and the Dodgers?
Between the Phillies and anybody. Let's just start Phillies in their own division and Phillies then maybe against the rest of the field.
Yeah, for me, honestly, I think it's just a matter of, and Dave Dombrowski has said this, they already have their star players. I know everybody wanted the Phillies to take a run at Juan Soto this offseason and whatnot, but really for me, it's just a matter of their stars playing like stars. Bryce Harper, I think, has certainly lived up to the hype and delivered year after year when he's healthy. I think you'd like to see more consistency from somebody like Trey Turner, for instance. JT Realmuto is entering the last year of his contract. You'd like to see him bounce back after a down year. You'd like to see Ranger Suarez stay healthy an entire season. So I think if their established players can just kind of do what they're supposed to do, I think they can close that gap. I would still pick the Phillies to win the National League East over the Braves and the Mets. I think they're the better team. I think they have the best rotation. I think, again, when everybody's firing all cylinders, I think they have one of the best offenses in baseball. I know people listening right now are going to go, yeah, but what about the last year in the NLDS and the second half of last season when they were kind of a 500 team? And I totally get that. But I think, again, just if the talent plays to the talent level they are, I think they should win the division, and I think they have as good a chance as anybody in Major League Baseball of knocking off the Dodgers in the postseason.
Right. No, I do too, because look, it starts with the rotation. To me, Zach Wheeler is exactly the guy you want to hand the ball to in any critical situation, but he's not the only one you have to hand it to. What do they need out of Aaron Nola behind him as the season goes forward?
Nola, for me, he's been one of the most durable, reliable pitchers in baseball, and he will have his runs throughout the course of his season where he struggles and whatnot. But for me, Aaron Nola, man, if he can just go out there and make 30 to 33 starts like he usually is, 190 to 210 innings like he usually does, I think the production is going to be there. I think Nola had a pretty solid year last year. Mm-hmm. He has pitched pretty well in some clinching game situations for wild card clinchers, division title clinchers, etc. So, for me, it's not so much Aaron Nola. I personally I am more curious to see what Ranger Suarez does this year. He was, to make the argument, he was the best pitcher in baseball the first 3 months of the season, and then he had injuries and kind of struggled down the stretch. I would like to see him stay healthy and see what he can do for an entire year, and I'm also curious to see what Jesus Luzardo does. He's the guy, the lefty they got from the Marlins in late December. If he's healthy, he's a top of the rotation, number 3-ish or better type starter, and if he returns to form after being hurt last year, I think that Phillies rotation can go toe-to-toe with the Dodgers.
What do you think of the bullpen? Because, by the way, I agree with everything you said about Nola. Because if I'm sitting there and a number 2, and that's my number 2, in any organization, I'm feeling good about what I have. What about the bullpen part of it? How do you that's always been the one that in any organization is always the trickiest part, because you and I know that usually teams that go really far have 1 or 2 guys where it may not be their career year, but it's the second best year of their career.
Right. Yeah, I think going into the season, if you were going to put like a question mark on something, offense, rotation, defense, bullpen, you'd probably, I guess, put it on the bullpen. And I say that because Jeff Hoffman is now pitching for the Blue Jays. Carlos Estevez is now pitching for the Royals. They were 2 of their big right-handed arms in the back end of the bullpen last season. And to replace them, they signed Jordan Romano, who was a really good all-star closer for the Blue Jays for a couple of years before he got hurt last year. He's on a 1-year deal. They signed Joe Ross, who kind of pitched very well out of the Brewers bullpen last year. He's going to fit in there somewhere. But now you're kind of relying on Orion Kirkring, has a ton of talent, has a ton of potential. The Phillies love him. And they're saying, listen, we think that Romano is going to bounce back from his injury, and we're also really confident that Kirkring can step in and step up and take a step forward as a late inning reliever. So I think a lot is really depending on Romano and Kirkring. They're not sure bets, but then, like you said, the bullpen, generally speaking, is volatile from one year to the next. Matt Strom has been really just a blessing since they signed him. Can he kind of continue to be a top-notch late-inning reliever? But they also need Jose Alvarado to bounce back. I mean, he was more cold than hot, I would say, last season, and didn't he didn't really figure into Rob Thompson's stable of most trusted relievers down the stretch. But if Alvarado can find the strike zone again, now you have something cooking. But you listen to the answer, and there's a lot of if this guy does this,
right.
Romano bounces back. If Kirkring takes a step forward, if Alvarado bounces back, they have the makings of a really good bullpen. They do. I don't think it's a huge stretch that those things happen. I think they definitely can happen. But again, it's you talk about question marks in the team, and that's probably where I would start with the bullpen.
But you know what, though? If we were talking about just strictly the Dodgers here, they have some ifs as well. So everybody has that at that part of the team. Rob Thompson has established himself in many ways. What do you like about him as a manager? And every once in a while, what questions do you have about him as a manager?
Well, the thing I like about him the most as a manager is his ability to handle people. I truly believe that is the most important job of a major league manager nowadays. And of course, is it important to make out a good lineup? Sure, but there's arguments can be made that you move one guy up or you move one guy down. It really doesn't matter that much, depending on who you talk to. But having a manager that the players respect really is important. He talks to these guys every day, good or bad. They respect him. So then when he needs to maybe bench a player or sit a player or discipline a player, I think those words matter. So, he's just a great people person in general. He's fair. He's accountable. He's likable. And he reminds me a lot of Charlie Manuel in that regard. But I also do think he runs a good game. I do think he runs a good game. I think if you had to nitpick something with Rob Thompson, and he's kind of acknowledged this, sometimes maybe he can be too loyal to a fault. I think we saw that a little bit at the end of the 2023 postseason in NLCS. He stuck with some relievers that maybe he shouldn't have. He stuck with maybe Johan Rojas in center field maybe when he shouldn't have. I think you saw him adjust to that. And my example would be Game 4 of the NLDS. The results didn't turn out, but he benched Austin Hayes, who they got at the trade deadline. They got Austin Hayes because they wanted him to start against left-handed pitching, and he got benched in Game 4 of the NLDS when the Mets had lefty Jose Quintana on the mound. He started Weston Wilson instead. Again, it didn't work out, but it shows that he's flexible and willing to adjust.
You know what's interesting, though? When I'm trying to operate a clubhouse 162 games, loyal to a fault doesn't bother me that much because you're out there trying to go out there every day and win games. And I know you've got to sometimes make that impersonal decision, but to me, loyalty is rarely a detriment. That's how I view it.
No, I agree with that. Especially because one of the reasons why Rob in the past was loyal to a guy and maybe unwilling to make a quick change is because players. You mentioned the 162-game season. They're used to the routine. They're used. They can kind of smell fear from a manager. Yeah. And so if Rob in the postseason is going, oh, my gosh, we didn't hit in the first two games, we're going to go crazy and change the lineup, and I'm going to bench this guy, I'm going to start this guy, because this guy didn't have a couple good games. And the players go, oh, my gosh, the manager's panicking. I was just watching the Netflix documentary on the 2004 Red Sox, and Terry Francona was saying the same thing. He's like, the manager really sets the tone in that clubhouse, and they can smell desperation, concern, fear from their manager. And I think Rob Thompson does a great job of kind of hiding that. But again, and here's another example of Rob's willing to make a move and adjust, is that he benched Alec Bowman Game 2 of the NLDS last year. So he kind of has learned to adjust and make changes if he thinks it's going to benefit the team.
Yeah, I mean, people sense panic. Rob doesn't look, at least from the outside looking in, I've never met him, doesn't seem like a guy that panics very much. You see what the Mets did in the offseason. We all knew that Cohen was going to spend a ton of money somewhere because that's his MO. In reality, are they any better?
Well, I think they're probably better. Juan Soto is certainly he's on track to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, and he's on track to be one of the greatest hitters in baseball history. So anytime you add a guy like that, I think certainly, you could say you make the improvement. But they don't really have anybody to play first base right now. They're kind of in a contract stalemate with Pete Alonso. So if they don't bring back Pete, that's a 30, 40 home run guy you lose. You add Soto, you lose Alonso. So are they better? They didn't really go out, in my opinion, and get that surefire, lockdown, number one Zach Wheeler type guy in the rotation. I think they're very good. Could they come into the playoffs again and get to the World Series? Sure, they absolutely could. But again, on paper, I would take the Phillies as a better team. I might even take the Braves as a better team.
Yes, I agree.
They're going to get Ronald Acuna Jr. back. They're going to get Spencer Strider back. They're expecting some. Austin Riley is going to be back. He missed some time last year, so maybe a bounce back season for Matt Olson. So, to me, I think a lot of people are focusing on the Mets because they got Soto, but I think if you asked people across baseball how to rank the division, I don't think you would get a consensus or maybe even a majority of people that would say the Mets are the NL East favorites.
Right. No, agreed. Look, the Phillies are a better team. I agree with you. The Braves are a better team. Soto's interesting. Very few players have the concept of the strike zone that he does. He is a great hitter. He is a mediocre base runner. And he's actually, when you watch him in terms of a route runner in the outfield, he's mediocre. He's a very interesting, to me, he is. There's a lot of contradictions with him, but there's no doubt as a strike zone guy and as a hitter, he's fabulous. That's my opinion. No,
I agree with you there. I mean, I watching him play, even with the Padres, when he was at the Padres in 2022 in the NLCS, I was like, gosh, this guy is just not a very good defender. You saw it with him when he was with the Nationals as well. But, I was like, wow, I guess I didn't realize that he was that average or below average defensively.
Yep.
You're not getting him for the glove, of course, but you like to have those complete players whenever you can. But, yeah, I mean, he's a fantastic player to watch. He's going to cause the Phillies tons of fits over the next decade or so. But, you don't get a home run every time you get up to bat either.
How excited are you just to see them get on the field and go to spring training again? Because when I was at the Fiesta Bowl for that, Penn State practiced at the Angels complex, and I was like, man, spring training's got to be in a month. It was kind of exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. I will say, when the season ends, it's great to have a break. And then, of course, I have 3 little kids at home, so Halloween, and you have Thanksgiving, and you have Christmas, and then you have New Year's. And so that's a lot of fun, of course. But then once New Year's Day passes, and then you look outside, and all you see is like this cold, gray, dreary weather. All the leaves are gone, and I start going, oh, man. I can picture myself in Clearwater in 75-degree sunny weather. So I'm definitely looking forward to getting down there. It's going to be, it's always exciting those first few days. Just to get outside, warm weather. You see the guys in uniform. You start to feel like it's an exciting time. It's an exciting time for all the players and for the fans and even the people that are writing about the team, like myself.
Yeah. Again, once you get to that certain point. The spring training to me is still that feeling of renewal. That's still the way I look at it. Hey, thanks.
I always tell people that, anytime a Phillies fan, they go, oh, do you go to spring training? And I always ask them, have you ever been? And a lot of people, of course, have been to Clearwater for spring training. And then they go, no, I've never been. I go, well, I'm telling you, that should be a bucket list item for every Phillies fan. If you get an opportunity to go to Clearwater for a few days, a long weekend, go for a week, stay down by the beach, have a grouper sandwich, and watch some Phillies baseball. I trust me when I say it'll be a great memory for you, down the road.
Yeah. That's always fun. Todd, by the way, how old are the kids?
8, 5, and 21 months.
Oh, it is a fun life for you. All right.
Yeah, it's busy, man. It's busy.
That's great. Oh, that's great. Todd, thanks so much. Look forward to checking in with you as often as possible. And again, the Philly Show with Ruben Amaro Jr., Todd, and Jim Salisbury, available where you get your podcast. Thanks so much, Todd.
Thanks. Take care anytime. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Todd Zolecki joining us. All right, we will come back with more in a moment. We go from Todd Zolecki to Todd Hummel. You can jump in and say hi here. Go ahead.
Never go for a 2 Todd lunch.
Really? I always fear a one-suit lunch.
Yeah,
all right, here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
When car repairs get difficult,
Well, I just don't know.
Me neither.
we get good. Sunbury Motors. More than quality new and used cars, Sunbury Motors specializes in complicated auto repair diagnosis. They can handle intricate repairs and even complete auto body with service open Monday through Friday, 7 till 4. And Sunbury Motors has made simple repairs easy. Maintaining your vehicle is necessary. Finding the time to do it is difficult. Welcome to Sunbury Motors Quick Lane. Just walk in or call ahead. Relax in their remodeled waiting room with Wi-Fi, beverages, and snacks. While Sunbury Motors factory-trained techs take care of your oil change, tire alignments, brakes, and inspections. Quick Lane, 6:30 to 6, Monday through Friday, Saturday, 6:30 till 2. Sunbury Motors, Ford and Hyundai, North 4th Street, Sunbury. And Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. We take the out of auto repair.